Some stories are not meant to be told, not because they're too graphic or too unbelievable, but because once they're spoken aloud, they cling to the room like damp air after a storm. These stories stain the walls. They linger in the silence between breaths. And yet, here we are. This is not a collection of horror stories. It is a confession, an attempt to give shape to the moments that defied logic, training, and even sanity. These aren't just police reports or witness accounts. These are the echoes that followed the officers home. The things they never wrote down. The things they couldn't explain. You're about to hear 6 true stories, each told by someone who stood at the edge of something they could neither confront nor deny. Some are still on the force. Some are long gone. All of them carry a weight, a quiet shame, or a persistent question that won't let them sleep. These events didn't unfold in haunted castles or cursed villages overseas. They happened in ordinary American towns, in gas stations off the interstate, in suburban bedrooms, in houses that no one dares walk by anymore. There are no monsters here, not the kind you expect, just people who disappeared, faces in windows that shouldn't be there, laughter where no one is standing. You'll hear their voices, you'll follow their footsteps, and if you're paying close attention, you might notice something reaching back. So take a deep breath, look over your shoulder, and remember, the darkness we fear isn't always outside. Sometimes, it follows you home in uniform. Let us begin. The laughing inside the walls. My name is Noah Whitaker. I was a patrol officer in Meriden, Connecticut for 5 years. Nothing prepared me for what happened on July 19th, 2016. We got a call from a landlord about a tenant acting strange, flooding his unit, refusing to respond, screaming about voices. It sounded like a routine mental health check, the kind you walk into expecting frustration, maybe a little danger, but nothing you haven't seen before. I was wrong. My partner that night was James Trevors, ex-military, cool-headed, and the kind of guy you'd want behind you if things went south. We pulled up to the building around 1:45 a.m. A crowd had gathered on the lawn, watching water spill from a second-story window like a broken aquarium. The landlord greeted us, red-eyed and furious, rambling about property damage and that nutcase on the second floor. We made our way upstairs. The hallway was soaked, water dripping from light fixtures. When we knocked, there was no answer, just the sound of running water and faintly someone muttering. We exchanged glances and forced the door. Inside, it was chaos. Faucets blasting in the kitchen. The bathroom flooded. Even a garden hose stretched in through a window, pouring water into the living room. And standing in the middle of it all was a man, maybe mid-30s, gaunt, pale, shivering. His name was Caleb Monroe. He stared at us like a dog waiting to be hit. I stepped forward. "Sir, we're here to help. Are you hurt?" He didn't respond, just kept glancing toward the bedroom, then at us, then back to the bedroom. I asked again. That's when he whispered it. "They live in the walls." I thought I misheard. James stepped in, cutting the water, checking each room while I tried to keep Caleb calm. He kept repeating it. "They live in the walls. They talk when I sleep. They scratch at night. They say my name." James called me from the bedroom. He sounded tense. I followed him in. The room was empty, clean compared to the rest of the apartment, but then he pointed at the far wall. There was a line, faint, the kind you wouldn't notice unless you were looking for it. A rectangle etched into the drywall, just slightly darker, like a hidden door. I put my hand to it, hollow. We both stepped back. James unholstered his weapon, nodded. I pushed. The wall gave way, swinging open on hidden hinges. Inside was a crawl space, no more than 3 feet deep. 3 people stared back at us, painted faces, wide, unblinking eyes. 1 woman, 2 men, knees pressed to chests, huddled together like children hiding from a storm. They didn't move. They didn't scream. They just stared. We ordered them out. They obeyed in slow, unnatural motions, like puppets unsure of their strings. Caleb collapsed to his knees, sobbing. They told me to let them in, he whispered. They were already inside. Backup arrived minutes later. The trio was arrested. They said nothing. Not during questioning, not in court, not even when their public defender begged them to explain why they were living in someone else's walls. They were identified as members of a fringe cult operating out of western Massachusetts. No known crimes, no missing persons, just 3 people who vanished from their own lives, only to resurface like phantoms in plaster. I still dream about their eyes, not because they were evil or monstrous, but because when I looked at them, I felt something familiar, like they saw something in me I didn't want to admit was there. I've since left the force, but every so often I catch myself pausing in front of a wall, at home, at work, in the bathroom, and listening. I know it's irrational, but I swear sometimes I hear it. A laugh, set dry and muffled by drywall, like it's waiting. Don't open the door. She needs blood. They told me I was lucky, that I acted quickly, decisively, and with precision. That if I had hesitated even for a second longer, things might have turned out a lot worse. But I don't feel lucky. I feel watched. My name is Rachel Singh. I've been with the Hudson County Sheriff's Department for 7 years. I usually work the night shift. The streets in North Bergen may seem calm after midnight, but there's a difference between quiet and safe. The silence has teeth. It was 2:13 a.m. when the first call came in. A woman moving from house to house, knocking, whispering disturbing things. The dispatcher relayed the report with her voice a little tighter than usual. I rerouted and arrived in under 5 minutes. The man who called met me outside, bathrobe, bare feet, trembling hands. He pointed at his Ring camera feed. I watched the footage, squinting at the glow of the screen. The woman stood facing the lens, unmoving, for almost 2 minutes. Then, with jerky motion, she pressed the doorbell. Her voice came through, raspy and cracked. "Open up. I need blood." When the homeowner told her to leave, she laughed. Not just laughed, she cackled like a cartoon villain. Then she began clawing at the door with her fingernails, trying to rip the doorbell from the wall before disappearing into the night. 3 other calls came in from the same street in the next 10 minutes. I requested backup and began a slow patrol around the neighborhood. A few officers spread out on foot. The radio chatter was minimal, but something felt wrong. I kept scanning my mirrors. Then the second call hit. Different tone this time. An intruder. A woman had entered a house less than a block from where the first sighting occurred. The homeowners, a couple in their 50s, had locked themselves in their bedroom. They said she was in the house and hadn't left. When I arrived, the front door was wide open. Another unit pulled up right behind me. I nodded, drew my weapon, and stepped inside. The house was dim, but moonlight leaked through the blinds. The air smelled metallic, faint, like rust. We moved room to room on the first floor. Kitchen clear, living room clear, garage clear. Upstairs, we heard a door creak, then silence. The couple was hiding in the master bedroom. The husband opened the door with shaking hands, pulling us inside. They hadn't heard her leave. The wife kept glancing at the closet, clutching a Bible. We began clearing the rooms. The first guest room was empty. The second What looked like a nursery was darker. My partner flicked the light switch, but it didn't work. Then we saw her. She was sitting on the edge of a twin bed, facing the door. Her back was unnaturally straight. She was barefoot, with deep gashes along her arms and legs. Her shirt was soaked in blood. At her feet was a child's doll, cradled like an infant. She was whispering to it. "She's hungry," the woman said without looking up. We issued commands, hands where we could see them, drop the object. She tilted her head, still smiling. Then we saw the knife in her right hand. It was old, rusted, and glinting in the hallway light. I tried de-escalation, asked who the doll was, why she needed blood. "She needs it to wake up," she answered. She stood without warning, knife raised. I fired 2 shots. One hit her shoulder, the other grazed her arm. She screamed and fell back. We cuffed her, secured the scene, and waited for medical. She kept whispering, even as the EMTs loaded her into the ambulance. "Don't let her sleep, she'll forget the blood." Back at the station, I filed the report, went through body cam footage, and sat with the detectives. Her name was Emily Kraus, 47, former teacher, diagnosed with dissociative psychosis 7 years ago, institutionalized briefly, then released after being deemed stable. No family, no next of kin. The doll had no name, but its dress had words stitched into it. "Drink deep." No one could explain where it came from. 2 nights later, my squad car was tagged for a brake inspection. When I popped the trunk, I found a tiny velvet pouch. Inside, a baby tooth. Human, not hers. There were no prints. The surveillance camera above the lot glitched that night. Again, I'm not new to bizarre cases, but this one never felt finished. The way she looked at that doll, like it was in charge. I've reviewed my report dozens of times. The words feel wrong, like I'm describing a dream I only half remember, but I know what I saw. I haven't slept right since. I hear tapping on my windows sometimes. I tell myself it's nothing. But last week, I found a trail of tiny red footprints leading up to my back door. They stopped at the threshold, then vanished. I never heard the door open. They held her for 72 hours under psychiatric evaluation. The doctor said she barely slept. When she did, she mumbled in her dreams, always the same thing. Don't let her close her eyes. Sometimes she laughed in her sleep, the same way she did when we found her. The detectives thought maybe she was part of a group or some underground cult, but there was no evidence of that. No social media, no contacts. Her phone, when we found it, had only 5 numbers, 2 of them disconnected. The rest were hospitals. One detail kept gnawing at me: the glitch in the station's camera. It wasn't a random power surge. The IT guy said it was more like a forced blackout. Someone accessed the feed and wiped a clean segment of time. 12 minutes. The same length of time she sat on the bed before we arrived, according to the homeowners. The same 12 minutes from when she left her last message on the doll, written in ink beneath its dress. 12 steps to the door. What does that even mean? I've worked homicide, domestic disputes, drug cases, and a few serial predator calls. This one wasn't like any of them. This didn't feel like madness. It felt orchestrated, like she was doing what someone, something, told her to do. A week after the incident, I visited the house again off duty. I needed to see it in daylight, with no gun in my hand, no partner watching my back. The owners had moved out. The place was listed for sale. Still had the tape marks from evidence tags on the walls. The guest room was clean, almost too clean. Fresh paint, new floorboards. But when I pulled the closet door open, something fell from the top shelf. It was the doll. Same torn dress, same stiff posture, same eyes that looked too glassy to be fake. And inside its mouth, someone had sewn a piece of red string into the gap between its plastic lips. I bagged it, took it straight to evidence, and wrote a supplemental report. I don't know why. No one asked for one, but I had to. That night, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being followed. I checked my mirrors twice driving home, took a different route, parked a block from my house, and walked the rest. When I got inside, there was a voicemail waiting on my landline. No caller ID. I pressed play. The voice was soft, whispering, 12 steps to the door. Don't turn around. Click. I didn't sleep that night, or the next. Now I keep a file in my desk drawer. I've started tracking cases like this. Odd symbols, whispering intruders, people repeating the same phrases like mantras. There aren't many, but enough to feel a pattern forming. Enough to know that this wasn't an isolated breakdown. This was a signal. And I think more are coming. He wasn't alone. They called it a welfare check. Nothing urgent, nothing dangerous. Just a tenant in an old apartment complex who hadn't been seen in a few days, with water reportedly leaking into the lobby below. I've responded to dozens of calls like that. Old plumbing, busted heater, maybe someone drunk and passed out in the tub. But this wasn't that. This was something else. My name is Miguel Rivas, 10 years in uniform. I've worked the graveyard shift in Passaic County for most of it. I thought I'd seen everything until that night in Building 6B. It was around 1:45 in the morning. I was paired with Tessa Lynn, sharp as hell, calm under pressure. We pulled into the lot and saw the property manager standing under a flickering porch light. He looked pale and agitated, kept glancing up at the second floor. "Unit 2B, he said. "Guy's name is Caleb Rowe. Been here less than 6 months. He said some weird stuff last time I saw him. Something about people in the walls." We nodded and headed upstairs. As we reached the landing, we could hear it, the sound of rushing water behind the door. Tessa knocked. No answer. I tried the knob. Locked. I radioed it in, got approval to force entry. The moment the door opened, hot, musty air rushed out like a breath held too long. The apartment was flooded, at least an inch or two of water covering the floor. Every faucet was running, kitchen, bathroom, even the shower. The sound was deafening. We stepped in carefully. The place looked like someone had tried to erase themselves. Blank walls, no pictures, furniture pushed aside. The fridge stood open, humming emptily. That's when we found Caleb. He was standing barefoot in the living room, facing the wall, not moving. Shirtless, soaked, eyes wide open but unfocused. His lips were cracked, and he was muttering something I couldn't hear over the roar of water. I approached slowly, hand near my holster. "Sir, are you okay?" I asked. No answer. He kept staring. "They know you're here," he said finally, voice hoarse. "They're not happy." "Who's they?" Tessa asked gently. He pointed at the drywall. Long, deep scratches marred the surface, as if someone had clawed at it night after night. "They want someone new," he whispered. We exchanged a look. Tessa radioed for EMS while I gently guided Caleb to sit down on the couch. He didn't resist, just kept staring at the wall like it might answer back. That's when I saw the notebook. It was floating in the hallway water near the bedroom, swollen and stained. I picked it up and flipped through the soaked pages. Line after line, the same phrase repeated in shaky handwriting. "Not alone, not alone, not alone." Tessa checked the bedroom. "Miguel," she called, "you need to see this." The closet door was open. behind the coats and boxes, a panel in the drywall had been removed, revealing a small, dark crawl space. Inside, empty food cans, a used blanket, and another notebook. This one pristine, dry, hidden in a plastic bag. Every page was filled with symbols, circles, triangles, spirals with eyes at the center. No language, no structure, just madness. And then the smell hit us. Something sour and chemical from the bathroom. We turned the corner and stopped dead. The mirror was fogged over from the steam, but words had been traced into it. Let us speak. The tub was full to the brim. Floating in the water was a child's doll, hand-stitched, soaked, its button eyes barely above the surface. Red string had been tied around its neck. Tessa looked at me. You think he has a daughter? I don't think this is a kid's toy, I said. I think it's a warning. We brought Caleb out on a stretcher. As they wheeled him past us, he turned his head suddenly and locked eyes with me. They're gonna follow you now, he said. That night, I didn't sleep. The images wouldn't leave me, but it didn't end there. 2 days later, I got a voicemail from a blocked number. The voice on the other end was high-pitched, like a recording slowed down. It said only one thing. 6 nights. Stay awake. Then laughter. Then silence. That night, my apartment smelled like mildew. I checked every pipe, every drain. Nothing. The next night, my mirror fogged up, despite no hot water running. I wiped it clear. There, faint but visible, were the same words. Let us speak. I started documenting everything. Tessa and I compared notes, and she confessed she'd been hearing knocks behind her bedroom wall every night at 3:03 a.m. We tried to follow up on Caleb's case, but the hospital said he'd been transferred. No record where, no forwarding file. The notebook was sent to evidence, but someone signed it out and never returned it. The case is officially listed as a psychological episode, closed. But I know it's not over, because last week I found something taped to my front door. A single photograph. Me, Tessa, and Caleb standing in the apartment, only it wasn't from our body cams. In the photo, we were all looking at the camera, and there was a fourth person standing in the background, half in shadow, hand pressed against the wall, smiling, waiting. I reported the photo, of course, submitted it as evidence, and requested a full review, but within 24 hours, it vanished from my file. Our internal system logged the upload, but there was no image attached anymore. It was like someone went in and surgically removed just that one item. I asked Tech. They shrugged. I asked my lieutenant. He told me to let it go. Some cases don't want to be solved, he said. Some things solve you. I started keeping a separate folder at home, paper only, no digital. Every weird call, every strange pattern, every name that showed up more than once. I found that Caleb Rowe had lived in another building across town just 2 years ago. Tenants there reported the same thing. Flooding, scratching, voices in the vents. The landlord from that building was found dead in his bathtub. Official cause, overdose. But his blood toxicology came back clean, not a single substance. His expression? Frozen in a scream. Tessa and I don't talk about the apartment anymore, but we don't stop watching either. I moved last month. Didn't leave a forwarding address. I still patrol, still answer calls, still smile at the neighbors. But I listen harder now. I check the walls before I sleep. I measure the fog on the mirror, and sometimes I dream. I dream of walls breathing, of faucets dripping blood, of that doll rising from the tub, speaking in a voice I almost recognize. I wake up at 3:03 a.m. exactly, every time. I don't look at the walls anymore, because I know someone's looking back, the one wearing my skin. My name is Harper Lane. I'm 32, former Marine turned state trooper in upstate New York. Lately, I've been stationed in Emerald Quiet Patch near the Catskills, a place where nothing much happens, until it does, all at once. The call came in at 3:41 a.m. from a 911 hang-up. That wasn't rare. What was rare, though, was the GPS ping. It came from an abandoned summer cabin halfway up Beach Hollow, a place locals didn't go. The dispatcher said she could hear breathing on the other end before the line went dead. No other sounds, no voices. I'd passed that cabin before. It was old, skeletal, rotting wood, roof caved in, porch barely hanging on. It used to belong to a retired violin teacher named Lorraine Wilkes, who died in the early 90s. Since then, no one wanted it. But someone, or something, was in there that night. I took the trail alone, armed with nothing but my sidearm, a flashlight, and my body cam. The radio chatter was silent except for the occasional click of static. Fog sat low between the trees, and the deeper I went, the more I felt the pressure behind my eyes. A kind of tension, like the woods were holding their breath. The cabin emerged like a wound in the trees, dark and misshapen. One window glowed faintly. I called it in. Then I stepped inside. The floor groaned beneath me, waterlogged and soft in places. My flashlight caught dust in the air, and the walls pulsed with moisture and mold. But what hit me hardest wasn't the smell, it was the silence. Absolute, suffocating silence. And then I saw her. She stood in the hallway, barefoot, wearing a black t-shirt and cargo pants, just like me. Her hair was tied back, like mine. Her face, it was mine, but wrong. She didn't move, just stared at me like she'd been waiting. My mouth opened, but no words came. My voice was stuck somewhere behind my ribs. I raised the light. Her eyes didn't blink. "Show me your hands," I finally managed to say. My own voice sounded like it belonged to someone else. She smiled, not with joy, with recognition. And then she vanished, just blinked out like static on a broken TV. I backed out of the hallway, gun drawn. Every part of me screamed to leave, but I moved room to room anyway, clearing each slowly. In the back room, I found a chair facing the wall. On it was a tape recorder and a stack of yellowed photos. Each photo was of me, in uniform, in my apartment, even in bed. All of them recent, all of them impossible. The tape was labeled Confession. I pressed play. It was my voice. I don't remember when it started. Maybe at the fire, maybe before. Maybe I've always had something following me. I stopped the tape. In the closet were dozens of clothes identical to mine, hung on wire hangers like costumes. On the mirror, scratched into the glass, "She was never you." I was shaking now. I turned to leave but heard the front door slam shut. I rushed out of the bedroom and nearly collided with myself again, standing at the top of the stairs, this time holding the recorder in one hand and a knife in the other. She didn't speak. She just tilted her head and mouthed something. "Switch." I fired. The shot shattered a picture frame behind her, and she was gone again. I ran outside, heart hammering. I didn't stop until I reached the cruiser, called it in as a false alarm, no visible threat, but I knew something was wrong. Still is. Back at home, I found the same photo, one of me asleep, taped to my bathroom mirror. I checked every window, every camera. Nothing. No breach. That night, I had the dream again. In it, I stand in front of a mirror. My reflection moves half a second late, Then it smiles wider than my mouth should go. Then it starts talking, but I'm not the one listening. A week later, Tessa Lynn, another trooper who'd backed me up on a missing hiker case, called to say she'd seen someone in a gas station near Monticello who looked exactly like me. Same uniform, same stance. But I'd been 60 miles away at the time. We tried to pull the security cam footage. It was wiped, just static, like the tape from the cabin. Now I keep my apartment lights on all night. Every mirror in my home is covered. I don't answer block numbers. I stopped listening to voice recordings, but I can feel her in the split second between light flickers, in the pause between my voice and the echo. She's learning, and she's getting better. One night soon, I think she's going to try again. Only this time, she might not vanish. She might be the one who stays, and I'll be the one who blinks out. I returned to that cabin the next night, alone. Not because I wanted to, but because I had to know if she was real. If what I saw was something that could be hunted, or if it had already taken something from me I'd never get back. The front door was open when I arrived, swaying in the wind like it had been waiting. The air inside was colder than it should have been. I found the tape recorder again, different tape this time. No label, just static for 3 minutes, then a whisper. She remembers now. I walked into the back room, and this time, the photos were gone. All of them. Only a single Polaroid remained, pinned to the wall with a rusty nail. It showed me standing outside the cruiser, tonight, wearing the exact clothes I had on. Same stance, same background, but I hadn't taken it, hadn't posed, hadn't smiled. Then I noticed something in the corner of the photo, barely visible. A shadow, her. I reported none of this. What would I even say? That something is stalking me in my own skin? That I don't know if I'm the real Harper Lane anymore? That week, I saw 4 more calls from Beach Hollow, each one a 911 hang-up. Each time a voice breathing on the other end, then nothing. We dispatched different officers. They saw nothing, but one said she could swear she saw someone looking out from behind a tree when she turned back toward the cruiser. She described them as wearing my uniform. The brass marked it as prank activity, but Tessa knows. She came over 2 nights ago, said she hadn't been sleeping, said she'd seen me, not just once, twice, first in town, then outside her window. At the same time I was on patrol with GPS timestamp to prove it. We sat in silence for a long time. Then she asked something I hadn't wanted to hear. How do we know you're you? I didn't answer, because I didn't know. She left not long after that. I haven't heard from her since. Now, some nights, I catch my reflection turning just a little too late. Or I hear my own voice muttering from another room. I sleep with the lights on and my badge under my pillow, like a relic, like it could protect me. But I think the truth is simpler than that. I think I was supposed to disappear in that cabin. I think she wasn't just wearing my face. I think I'm the shadow now, and she's the one who got out. What took Micah? We weren't supposed to be in the mines that night. My partner, Micah Bell, had just turned 34. A transfer from Tulsa who spent most of his years working missing persons in rural areas. He was the kind of guy who always carried 2 flashlights, an extra belt of batteries, a pocket notebook with sketches of crime scenes no one asked him to draw. He liked patterns, silence, a good bourbon after shift. I'm Ava Dalton, State Police, Northern Nevada. My beat covers the triangle between Gold Point, Esmeralda, and a half-dozen ghost towns too small for maps. We got the call from a hiking group who heard screaming near a defunct mining shaft deep in the Monte Cristo Range. Nothing about it was standard. No access roads, no recent maps. The last official record of that site was from 1977, marked, sealed, and decommissioned. But people still go missing out here, and we still chase ghosts. We hiked in before sundown. I remember the way Micah looked at the entrance, black as pitch, like a throat waiting to swallow. He tapped the old metal frame and said, "Places remember." We found a broken padlock on the fence, fresh boot prints in the dirt. Someone had gone in. Maybe more than one. We followed. The shaft sloped inward at a sharp angle, the earth curling in around us like it didn't want us to leave. Our boots crunched over gravel and broken timbers. Micah took point with the map from 1977 folded under his arm. I followed close, hand on my sidearm, not for anything human, just for whatever the hell felt wrong in there. The walls were coated in moisture, thick with orange rust. Faint scratches ran in lines along the left side, like someone had tried to mark their way out. We made it half a mile in before the light changed. Our flashlights dimmed just slightly, like the batteries had aged 10 years in 10 seconds. Micah stopped. "You hear that?" he asked. I didn't. Then I did. It was like a voice, not words, just the sound of something shaping air into a rhythm. Breathing, maybe not. We pushed further. Another 100 yards in, we came to a collapse, a tunnel partially blocked by fallen beams and loose rock. There was a narrow passage through, just enough for one person to crawl. Micah looked at me, then the tunnel. "I'll go," he said. He always said that. He clipped his radio to his shoulder and turned his flashlight to low to avoid blinding himself. Then he crawled in. The sound of stone scraping against fabric faded quickly. I kept my flashlight trained on the opening, listening. Nothing for 10 minutes. 15. Then static crackled through the radio. I pressed my mic. "Micah, you copy?" More static. Then a voice that wasn't his. "Help!" My spine stiffened. "Micah, is that you?" Another long pause. Still breathing, but it's not mine. Then silence. I called in for backup, but the signal wouldn't go through. I tried to crawl in after him, but the walls of the tunnel pulsed with heat, wet and close. Something biological. I backed out, waited, listened. Eventually I saw the light flickering from the other side. He crawled out, covered in soot, face pale, eyes wrong. "Micah?" I asked. He nodded. "I'm fine." But he wasn't. He didn't say anything the whole hike back. Didn't write in his notebook. Didn't look at me. His flashlight was gone and so was his radio. At the cruiser, he sat in the passenger seat, staring out the window like he was watching for something. That night, I dropped him off at his place. He said nothing, just got out and walked inside. Next morning, he didn't show up to briefing. I drove to his trailer. The front door was open. The lights were off. His gear was gone, but the air smelled like sulfur and iron. In the kitchen sink, I found 3 smooth stones, stacked vertically, balanced impossibly. Something was scrawled on the wall behind them. "I'm still down here." His boots were wet. There was no sign of him. We searched the mines for 4 days. Nothing. On the 5th day, I got a letter in my mailbox. No postage, just my name, written in Micah's handwriting. Inside was a sketch of me, standing in the mine, but my mouth was open wider than any human could manage, and something with too many hands was crawling out of it. I don't patrol that triangle anymore. Sometimes, hikers report a man in uniform near the Monte Cristo shaft. They say he doesn't speak, just stands there holding a flashlight that never turns on. I know what they saw, I know what I lost, and I know one thing for sure. Whatever came back from that tunnel, it wasn't Micah. Weeks passed, no sign of Micah. Officially, he was marked missing, presumed dead. Unofficially, I kept the sketch in my desk drawer and locked it every night. I couldn't throw it away, couldn't stop looking at it either. The way he drew my eyes, empty, like they'd already seen what was coming. One night, around 3 a.m., I woke to the sound of my porch boards creaking. I live alone, miles from the nearest neighbor. I reached for my pistol and peered through the curtain. There was someone standing at the edge of the trees, just far enough that I couldn't make out the face, but I knew the stance. The way the shoulders slouched, the way the head tilted, like he was still listening for things no one else could hear. I didn't move, didn't breathe. I blinked, and he was gone. The next day, I found a stone on my windowsill. Smooth, perfectly round. I transferred the week after, somewhere flat, somewhere bright. I tell myself the sun helps, but some nights I wake to dreams of collapsing tunnels and something whispering from behind the walls of the earth. Something hungry. There's a part of me that still believes I left Micah down there, that he's waiting for me to come back and finish what we started. And there's another part of me, quieter, colder, that wonders if I really brought him out that night. Because sometimes, when I'm tired, I see a shadow move just a split second too late, and I wonder if it's still wearing my partner's skin, or if maybe it's looking for someone else to wear next. The thing with my face, you might think being a cop means you're prepared for anything. You're not. My name is Jordan Reyes. I'm 36, been with the department 16 years, and I thought I'd seen it all. Until the night I answered a welfare check in the old shipping district outside Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. I wasn't supposed to be on duty. I'd picked up an extra shift for a rookie who was sick. It was cold, just past 2 a.m., and dispatch said a neighbor called, and after seeing lights flickering inside a condemned warehouse that hadn't had power in years, they thought someone was squatting. It was supposed to be nothing. It turned out to be something I can't explain. And I'm not telling this story for drama. I'm telling it because if you ever see something that looks like you, exactly like you do not approach it. You get in your car and drive the other way. That night, I didn't, and I've paid for it every day since. The warehouse looked like hell. Broken windows, ivy growing into the walls, metal doors rusted half shut. I parked with my lights off and went in on foot. As I got closer, I noticed the air felt off, like it didn't belong to the night, thicker, still. I entered through a side door that had been bent open. Inside, the place was a graveyard of pallets, chains, and rotted crates. My flashlight cut through dust like fog. Vatoibato Kim Tran Yutung Lay. About 15 minutes in, I heard footsteps. Not scurrying or panic, steady, confident footsteps, like someone was waiting for me to hear them. I called out, "Police, identify yourself!" No answer. I followed the sound through a hallway that led to a loading bay. That's where I saw me. Standing under the broken light was a man in full uniform. My uniform, same jacket, same badge number, same face. I froze. He didn't move, didn't blink. I radioed it in. But static cut through every channel. I tried again. Nothing. "Turn around and put your hands where I can see them," I shouted. He smiled. I know my own smile. That wasn't mine. I drew my weapon, but he didn't flinch. Just slowly raised his hand and pointed to the far end of the room. Then he turned and walked into the shadows. I should have left, right then, but something about seeing your own face moving without you, it messes with your instincts. I followed. I made it about 20 steps before I heard my voice, not in my head, out loud. "I don't belong here," it said. It came from behind me. I turned fast and no one was there. When I looked back, he was gone. In his place was a cracked mirror leaned against a crate, and in the mirror, I was still there. Even when I turned my head, the reflection didn't move. That's when I ran. I made it to the cruiser, locked the doors, and just sat there, staring at the building. Nothing moved, but I swear to God I could feel eyes on me the whole time. I filed the report as trespassing, no suspect located. I didn't include the rest. Who would believe it? But the next night, things got worse. I got home late. My apartment was dark, just like I left it. But on my table was a photo, printed from a cheap inkjet printer. It showed me, sitting in my car, outside the warehouse. I never took that photo. There was no note, no break-in, nothing stolen. Then the dream started. Same hallway, same shadow. But now, I see it wearing my uniform, walking into my house, lying in my bed, and every night it gets closer. One night, I woke up choking, my own hands around my throat, but I was alone. I've checked every camera, every lock, nothing. The department thinks I'm losing it. They offered leave. I didn't take it. I can't sleep much now. I shower with the curtain open. I check mirrors twice before I look in them. And just last week, a traffic cam near Route 22 picked up a patrol unit that doesn't exist. Same plate number as mine. Same driver. Me. Only, I was 80 miles away. On foot. With proof. Listen to me. This is real. If you see something that looks like you, run. Don't question it. Don't try to understand it. Don't try to fight it. It wants your life, your name, your space in the world. It won't stop. I don't know what I saw. I don't know where it came from. But I know this. If you give it time, it'll become you so completely. Not even your mother will know the difference. And when it does, you won't be around to warn anyone else. So here's my advice, and I mean this. Avoid abandoned places. Never ignore that gut feeling. And if the shadows ever move like they're thinking, get out. Because I didn't, and I think I lost the right to be myself that night. It's been 2 months since the warehouse. I moved out of my apartment a week after the photo showed up. I sleep in different motels now. Always one-night stays, cash only. I stopped shaving. I keep my badge taped inside my jacket. Not for pride, just so I can remind myself who I used to be. I've tried therapy. I've tried confession. Nothing sticks. The thing with my face still shows up in reflections. Not all the time, just enough to make me hesitate before I open the bathroom door, before I answer the phone and hear my own voice on the other end. Not repeating, conversing. A couple weeks ago, I went back to the warehouse during daylight, not officially, just me, my phone, and a whole lot of denial. It was gone, not just boarded up, gone. Where the building stood was a patch of torn up earth, half paved, like someone had been clearing it for new development. But no equipment, no crews, no signs, just a mirror. Framed in cracked metal, set in the ground like a grave marker. I smashed it, but as I turned to leave, I caught something in the corner of my eye. A shimmer, my face, smiling, only I wasn't. So here it is, plain and simple. What you think is impossible can still find you. Doesn't care who you are, how trained you are, or how rational you think you've become. If you ever feel like you're being followed by something you can't see, believe it. Don't wait until it's standing in your skin, because by then, it's already too late. You've just heard 6 true stories, told not by actors, not by writers, but by men and women who wore the badge, who stood between danger and the innocent, and who, just once, stared into something that didn't follow the rules of reality. These weren't just creepy tales to pass time, they're warnings. Because here's what they don't teach you at the academy. Not every threat wears a mask. Not every monster is human. And sometimes, what we see in the dark follows us long after we turn the lights back on. In each case, something was trying to get close, to slip past logic, past doubt, and into our lives. Whether it was a mimic, a presence in the walls, a cult, a phantom from a mine, or something wearing a familiar face, none of it was random. It knew when to strike. It knew we wouldn't believe ourselves. If you take one thing from these stories, let it be this. When your instincts scream, listen. When your gut says, run, run. Don't let pride or training silence that ancient voice in your head. It's there for a reason. These officers weren't weak. They weren't delusional. They were doing their jobs, protecting others. And they encountered things that no manual prepares you for. So whether you're walking home late, passing an empty building, or just feel like you're being watched, trust that feeling. Don't go looking for answers. Just get out. This world holds shadows deeper than we can measure, and some things don't want to be found, but they sure as hell want to find you.